making a living as a DJ was impossible. Going from selling CDs out of the trunk of my Scion to having a platinum record was impossible. Yo, where's the coffee at? Oh, shit. Yo, we need new sounds.
Sometimes I feel like your head is a little oven that only bakes bad ideas.
He's the dumbest motherfucker that I know.
I need to get paid.
Asshole! There's no I in team, bro.
Yeah, but there's an I in Diplo.
James, thanks so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Congratulations on this project. It's incredibly weird and odd and meta and fun, and it started with a web video, right?
Yeah, it started with a commercial for the Mad Decent Block Party that Brandon Dermer, this young director, was tasked with creating for Team Mad Decent. And his idea was to have me play Diplo and like a Dollar Shave Club type vibe. And
people had kind of already been saying that you and Diplo looked alike, right?
Yeah, I mean, like from like 20 feet away with the dad hat and the mustache, I could kind of be a stunt double. So that's kind of where that came from. And so we did this commercial. I thought that'd be the end of it. We all thought that'd be the end of it. And then Viceland came to us and said, where are you taking this? We were like, what? And like, the series. I was like, it's not a series. Come on, this is just a one-off. Shows you how much I know. And then, but then I went back that night and I was thinking about it. I was like, well, if we did do it as a series, and then it hit me. I was like, wait a minute, this like musical Jesus sucks at life. And so we went and we pitched Spike Jonze parables about life through the eyes of a clown. And I said, you know, and Spike completely neglected to ask me if I'd ever written a show before or run one, thank God. And he gave us a green light, and we went out and made it.
So how involved behind the scenes are you?
Well, I was showrunner, executive producer, writer.
You're show running.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
And you're also like on camera for almost every frame of the show.
Yeah.
So how is that?
It was great. You know, what I really wanted to do, I just had this idea. I thought I knew how to do it. I called Nahnatchka Khan, who created Don't Trust the Bee in Apartment 23. And I was like, am I stupid to say that I could show run this? And God bless Notch. She said, no, totally do it. It's like, okay.
Even if you failed, you'd have an incredible experience.
I knew I would learn a ton. Yeah. And I did. And, you know, I mean, I didn't do it alone. I mean, I got to hire 2 co-EPs, Hal Ozan and Jordan Van Dyne. And they would help me, and Brandon Dermer would also help me break the stories in the room. I'd go back and write like a fiend and then bring it in without proofreading it, which is awesome. Great process, by the way. If you find people you really dig who like you trust their opinion and they like you and they're like on the same page as you, it's a great creative process to just stream of consciousness, do it, and then bring it in without second guessing it, without proofreading it. So I'd bring it to the room, we'd talk about it, and the little stupid ideas that you would have talked yourself out of if you'd had like a week to ponder it. If a room full of people says, oh, I like this, you go, really? They're like, yeah, and it stays. And then the stuff that it would have taken me, again, like 2 weeks to figure out, we figured out in like 20 seconds in a room full of like-minded people. So it was a great, fun, energizing process writing it. And then...
so you wrote all of the episodes?
Yeah.
Or at least I mean, did you singularly write all the episodes, or you wrote the drafts and then worked with other writers, or it was basically your sole credit as writing?
Yeah, I have sole writing credit. I mean, you know, it's...
That's unbelievable.
Well, thank you.
Most showrunners don't actually do that, you know? Showrunners run a team of writers.
Yeah, well, what I realized that I knew how to write, but what I didn't know how to do was actually farm out writing assignments. So I discovered so much in the writing of it that I realized for me to try to convey exactly what the tone was and to another writer and have them accomplish it, I hadn't done that before. So, and we were discovering the show as I was writing it, so it just seemed a more efficient process for me to go back and write and bring it in and just have it be informed by like this brain trust kind of, you know, salon that we had set up.
Did you have any nervous breakdowns?
Well, yeah, you go in peaks and valleys, right? So
Who mainly talked you down when you needed to be talked down?
well, the process is, I think this can work. Oh my God, this is going to work. This is working. Oh my God, none of this works. And then you just kind of go through that at every stage of the process. So, you know, you go through that in writing, and then you go through that in the edit. When you think, okay, yeah, man, the show's gonna be great. You watch the first cut, you're like, none of this works. And then
rough cut is the biggest disaster of most people's lives when it comes to movies and
almost.
and TV shows.
And you can, so people can tell you that, but then until you actually experience it and you have that sinking feeling in your stomach, you're like, oh my God, this is just not gonna work. And then what I realized is, you know, and you learn all these lessons, like you start nitpicking on cuts, and then you realize, oh, wait a minute, if I just give a general note to this editor, then they have their process on it, and then they fix it, and then I can really only get in the way if I try to like micromanage. So yeah, all these lessons that you learn is just how to get the most out of people. The reason I wanted to showrun it, and the reason I wanted to kind of play the role that I did in the whole process, because as an actor, I just knew the kind of environment that I wanted to create for other actors. I love.
You've been on so many shows at this point and projects, like you see different environments.
Yeah, I've been doing this for a minute, so. And I love actors. You know, we're like all freaks, basically, deep down. Like we're just, you know, we have that deviant gene that just makes us want to channel other people in front of other people. So I wanted to create a fun, safe, creative environment on set. I mean, I've gotten to work with showrunners who've done that, but this, we shot at a speed and we shot in a way where any improv could be bottled and used. We shot 2 cameras at all times. We shot on really high resolution, so an over could become a close-up in post. We didn't have to set up, you know, again for that.
Moved very quickly.
We moved really quickly. It was kind of run and gun style. And what I realized the joy of it was that you spend all this time writing and then rewriting and dialing in, and then you get to set, and if you cast it right, actors come in and they'll improv a line that's way better than what you wrote. And it was so much fun to be in that position, to be like, yes, that's great. Because you don't second guess somebody else's idea if you recognize it as great. You second guess your own ideas all the time. So the joy of that discovery, when people come in and elevate stuff that worked, or even better, you know, just fill in a gap that was in the script or something that was maybe a little bit clunky and you knew it wasn't 100%, and then they come in and the improv, like that line that the German guy says about, sometimes I think your head is a little oven that only bakes bad ideas. That was H. Michael Kroner improv, 100%. And when he said it, there's, you know, I'm on screen with him, but there's a part of me that's like, yes, inside, because you realize that's, you know, it's going to benefit the project. So that was the greatest joy, was discovering, you know, everything that all these other teammates brought to the process.
Now, are you at a certain place in your career where you were looking for something that would put you behind camera more, or was it just kind of happenstance that this project came together and you were like, well, I want to do this and so I'm behind the camera because I want to do this project?
Yeah, I've been writing for a while. I've been kind of like ghostwriting for myself for a long time. I've got a couple unproduced screenplays, one unproducible screenplay. Everybody's got to knock one of those out at some point in their life.
Multiple of those.
Yeah. And I did want to write. I had a script a pilot script that I'd written with 2 other people that I was going to do that was, you know, more kind of traditional, I would say. I'm definitely not a network, but, you know, this is just crazy whacked out. So it was more traditional than this. It was a more gettable idea than this. And but this one just kind of caught me, and as soon as the idea hit me in the world, and like the idea of having these really philosophical discussions in the writer's room, and then about truth and life, and then layering stupidity on top of it, just seemed like that's exactly what I want to do. And then it became the only thing I wanted to do, and yeah. Where
did the character of, this is going to sound silly, but where did the character of Diplo come from? Because in the original web video, what am I calling a web video? It's like
a web video on the interwebs.
It's like 2005.
That someone posted in a chat room.
On E-Bomb's world. No, the original video, you know, the joke is that James Van Der Beek is playing Diplo, and there's a bit of a character there, but not Not really. I mean, where did the character of Diplo come from? This one.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the original short, we were just kind of messing around, and we just had an idea that he says his life is normal, but it's clearly not, and everybody rolls their eyes at him. That was kind of the balance. For series, obviously, you got to flesh it out way more, and so it works when you have the meta thing. The cool thing is you get these building blocks for free that you don't really have to work for, like. Right now, Diplo has a superpower. He can channel music. He's a mega successful worldwide juggernaut. And we don't have to spend minutes convincing the audience that this is true because they know Diplo, they know his music, and we have the music. So one shot of me on stage in front of 30,000 people sells it. And so to balance that, then you give him blind spots like, one-on-one relationships or, vocabulary. Or just
hubris,
or just delineating fantasy from reality. And so you really explore. To me, it was like exploring the creative process and what happens in the mind of somebody who can create these things. Because it's a crazy thing that like 99.9% of people struggle with and can't do. And Diplo is able to create these hits that go around the world, and there's power to that. So you just saddle him with a million blind spots, and it's kind of where it came from.
There's also power to sort of celebrity and having handlers as well, and a lot of the conflicts come from his handlers trying to clean up the messes that he, unbeknownst to him, puts all of them in. Did you relate to that at all? I mean, you've been in this business for quite some time. I'm sure you've had a couple handlers here and there, and had a peak of celebrity where you could kind of make the messes that you wanted to make if you wanted to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, you definitely. It was just such a weird world, like to kind of, as Brandon puts it, like go in and subvert expectations about what people think a celebrity's life is like. That was kind of the goal for us. So yes, there are handlers, and somebody posts something online, and maybe there probably is a way more detailed discussion about which emoji to use than really anybody would want you to think has happened, but definitely happened. It was that kind of stuff, and it's a really rich world to make fun of, and that was the thing that Wes, who's Diplo, gets on such a deep level, and gets more than a lot of other people. He's really sharp. So of course in our show we made him pretty dumb.
Yeah, talk about presenting that idea to him. So we're gonna make a show about you, but you're dumb in it.
Yeah, no, his thing. He sat down. He's like, "Yo, just make me completely ridiculous," and I was like. I'm okay, great. Because number one, that's the only answer you can give. You have to be 100% game and like wanting to run towards it in order for this to work. And so if anything, I had to convince him that, well, hey, we need to make him somewhat likable, But just the fact that he was that game, that gave us, free range to do it. And he didn't micromanage. He didn't try to talk us out of anything. He was just like, yeah, go for it.
He's incredibly likable because he's Zen. I mean, he's this sort of Zen clown, Well,
yeah. You mean the character or Wes?
Character,
the character, yeah.
I don't know him, but the character.
No, but some of the charm, honestly, came from him. Wes is like, he's got a kind of childlike, fascination and excitement about certain things. And so I took that and just amped that up and used that to counteract some of the narcissism that we also imbued him with.
How many scripts did you end up? I've seen 2 episodes. So how many did you guys end up?
We got 5.
You got 5.
Yeah.
You wrote 5 episodes.
Yeah.
If you guys get picked up for a second season, are you going to bring writers on, or do you plan on?
Yeah. Well, now I would want to farm out a little bit and just to like get other, because now that it's established, now there's a tone. People know what the show is. Now I think it's a little easier to let another writer come in and get the benefit of their ideas as opposed to just what knocks around in my brain.
What was the most difficult part of the process for you?
The most difficult was pre-production. Really? Yeah, the pre-production, because it's the kind of thing where like you have this idea and it's this beautiful thing and you're excited about it, and then all of a sudden you have to figure out every single detail of how to execute it, and it's the kind of tedium that almost makes you wish to never have an idea again. It's just like, oh my God. And that was one of those moments of like, is any of this funny? Like, is any of this gonna work? And I talked to some filmmaker friends of mine, and they were like, oh, you about like a week out from production? I said, yeah. They're like, that's exactly where you should be. I was like, really? This is this big secret of the industry that like a week or 2 out before the first day of filming,
All the jitters should hit you.
All the jitters and all the, because you've poured over this one joke that was so funny. Now it's like, how do we get the transportation vehicles there? And how do we light it? And how do we put it in on this schedule? And okay, we need a rat for this scene. So we got to get the rat wrangler. Well, that's going to cost $1,000. It's just
that's why I think
pre-production stuff. Yeah.
That's why I think you hear about like Apatow or Paul Feig having as many comedians on set as possible, because sure, that joke made them laugh in the writing phase of it, but because they've poured over it and over it and over it, that week going into production, they're just like, I have no idea if this is funny.
Yeah, you lose all sense of it. But then the other advice they gave me was by the first day of shooting, if you're still feeling that way, then you're in trouble. And sure enough, by the first day of shooting, I was like a kid in a candy store, man. I was so excited. I was running around. I had my cast there. We were like getting to make this thing. We were putting it on its feet, and I was seeing what they brought to it, and they were so great. It was a blast. Like I would drive to work in the morning, like anxious that there was traffic, just because I wanted to get on set. Like I just wanted to be there. It was the most fun.
What did you, when you were producing it, you had to deal with like the trucks and all the sort of basic management of producing as well? Because can't imagine doing that while also acting in it and writing in it.
Once I got to set, we hired a guy named Josh Cohen, who was a producer on the Eric Andre show. And so Josh came in and he handled a lot. He handled a lot of that stuff for me. And we had an assistant, Kaya, who was great and would handle emails and all that. Like this whole thing. It takes a lot of people. It takes a lot of team and everybody working in concert. And we had Matador Content. They were our production company, so they were there supporting their line producers and all that. Like they did a great job of protecting like my creative space on set and letting me just kind of focus on the role that I had to play and writing and rewriting stuff on its feet.
Nothing worse than trying to make it in the middle of a creative decision and someone comes over to you and says, "Hey, where do you think we can move the truck? Like we're getting a ticket right now."
Yeah, no, they did a great job protecting me from that. So I mean, I have the title of showrunner in all the creative senses, but truthfully, when it came to actually doing the show, some of those showrunner duties got picked up by other people so that I could do what I had to do.
Yeah. When I'm sure you've shown a couple cuts to Diplo himself.
Yep.
What has his response been?
I texted him after he watched it. I was like, so? And he texted back, feeling it. And I sent him a review. Of course, I sent him a good review. Yeah. So I sent him like one of the best reviews we got. And he texted back, dope.
I wouldn't be able to live with that. I want more. Come on. I need more validation.
That's about the best. That's like the best you can get, I think, from him. Like if he takes back dope, you're like, solid. There you go.
So now, having put yourself behind camera, I mean, as well as in front of camera for this, are you going to be going into more projects? Are you maybe going to produce one of those screenplays that you have, or another show?
Yeah, I've been so we literally we all finished and delivered the last episode. Yesterday. I was doing talk shows and like giving notes on like a sound mix and a VFX thing, and Brandon was too, and everybody on this email chain just going back and forth. This morning was the first morning I woke up and I didn't have like 30 emails, so it was we just finished that. I'm going to take a little time off and hang with my kids and then figure out exactly what I want to do next. But it probably will be involved. I don't think I can go back to just and unless I'm working with people who are brilliant and genius, then I'll totally do it. It'll be like a vacation.
When did you realize that you wanted to be behind the camera? Like, or when did you realize you wanted to start writing? And
I think when people talk about wanting to write, I feel like it's more like you can't not write. I think that's for writing for me is like, do you enjoy writing? And my answer has always been, I enjoy having written. Like the writing just kind of has to happen. And that's the way it's always been until I found this like salon style thing where you have the room and you go back and write. It takes all the angst and the ickiness out of it when you have that support system.
You have a due date, really.
Yeah, you have a due date, you have a deadline.
People waiting,
which is great. Yeah, I would call them in at 11 o'clock, and at like 11:08, I'd be still in like my pool house, like writing, and then quickly sending the email. So I'd email it to them while I drove to the office, and they'd read it. that was my deadline.
There's nothing like a deadline to give you some ideas. I think I saw some quote
great.
yesterday from someone that was like, all my best ideas come between like, an hour before my deadline or something
That's
like that.
really true. It all starts to pick up because the pressure gets taken off and then the ideas start flowing. The other thing that I realized is that like somebody said to me, perfection is the enemy of good. Oh, yeah, I've heard that. So even the screenwriting program is called Final Draft, which I hate as a title. I love the program, but it's the worst freaking title you could ever put for screenwriting software because you're never writing a final draft.
I always start writing in text edit and move to Word and then move to Final Draft because I like it to be as like sloppy and dirty as possible when I'm starting it.
Exactly. You're never going to have a final draft. There's no final draft. Even you get in the editing room and you're making script changes in the edit. It's all just a process. It's all an experiment. And if you have that goal of perfection in your mind, you're never going to get there.
You're making script changes on set too. You find
Absolutely.
when you're not even just improvising, but you find sometimes when you get with your actors, a scene that you thought was beautifully written somehow just doesn't work, and a line needs to be changed or adapted or cut off a little bit.
Yeah, there was one line that I thought was really brilliant, talking about fame and attention. And the metaphor that I had worked out was that if you have a crack in your windshield and you're going 5 miles an hour, it's fine. But if you're a rocket ship, that's going to blow your ass up. That crack being your ego. I thought it was very clever.
I like it.
And then Jamar Neighbors, the actor, had to say it, and he just was not connecting to it at all. And we were talking, and I was like, it's kind of like, you did stupid stuff before, nobody cared. It's like you were just farting in a breeze. Now, like, you're in a crowded elevator. He's like, oh, yeah. And he did it, and he delivers the line, and he riffs on it. And it's so much better than my high-minded thing of rocket ships and windshields and
so he legit
and
changed it to a fart in the elevator?
Yeah. He's like, cause no one want to smell that shit. I'm like, that shit stink. I'm like, Jamar, you're amazing. I love you. Yeah.
Let's get some questions from the audience.
Hi, James.
Yes.
Thank you for being here today, by the way.
Absolutely, man.
One question I had to ask you was, were there any challenges you ran into trying to replicate Diplo's personality and actions?
Yeah, it came pretty easy because he's a really fun character to play. There's very little shame, and there's like a kind of childlike wonder to it all. So it was fun to slip into, and also having the writer's room to improv in. That's really where a lot of the character came from. It also helps to have a different voice too. So I took like my impression of him and just kind of used it as a launching point. Because he's got a very specific way of talking, and there are like 3 elements going on. So that, it's because there's like the rhythms are kind of very specific, and like he's got a lot of thoughts going on in his head, but sometimes always come out of his mouth because like his brain is moving so fast. And then there's like a Philadelphia influence, which is like a little bit street, and then sometimes he enunciates too. So you build that voice, and then I feel like it's interesting. I remember like when I first started acting, people were talking about, does character come like from the outside in or from the inside out? I feel like I'm on inside the actor's studio now. Am I boring the crap out of everybody?
When you get to heaven, what is God going to say?
The idea that like, if you have a gesture or something, does the character inform you doing that, or does that inform the character? And I think it can totally work both ways. There's no real answer to that. Because somebody says, just bang your hand on the thing, all of a sudden you've got a guy who's like definitive. He's making choices. And that's a character coming out of just something totally external. So I feel like the voice really kind of informed a lot of the character and kind of what worked and what philosophy you could put in that voice and have it just seem ridiculous.
I'm going to get into this acting thing in just a second. I'm curious about this because I the idea of it, telling someone to bang their hand and then having them doing that and having that inform the character, it goes against what a lot of actors do and want to do. Sometimes when you tell an actor to bang their hand, they say, well, why am I banging my hand? What's going on here?
Yeah, totally. And sometimes, listen, everybody works differently. So yeah, a lot of times you say, you get really mad, you want to be definitive, you're really making a point, really, really make sure that lands, really, what does that mean physically? There's a way to do it. But sometimes you can just say, try that. And then inherently the actor just makes the decision that, you know what, damn it, I'm banging it. And then and it
Does that
works.
come naturally to you, working externally versus working internally?
It's both. It really is both. I mean, you never want to give a result-oriented direction, like, say it this way or do it this way. But every once in a while, some kind of little character tick really is just like the gold that you need to kind of to get you through, I feel like.
Next question.
Hi. First off, I agree with you about the intimidation of Final Draft.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, so I use a different software called Celtics, which is far much easier. So since this is your first time showrunning a TV show, what was the difficulty of doing that opposed to not just acting and producing? And also, what was your first interaction with Diplo like?
My first interaction with Diplo. So we had done this little commercial for the Mad Decent Block Party, and then the idea of doing the series got floated around. So I was like, well, I got to go sit with him. And so I pulled up to his house, and he came out his front door. And I'm not kidding. He steps out and goes, "Sup, fam?" Knowing full well what he was saying. Yeah, so we just kind of hung out, and it became very apparent. Well, I had kind of flagged him as a musical genius a couple years back. I heard him on NPR talking about music and how he fused like Latin beats with reggaeton, and I was like, this guy's really onto something.
I remember when he was producing the first MIA stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was mind-blowing at the time.
Yeah, he's on another level. And you could see that, and he's incredibly sharp, and you can see how he's like a craftsman and an artist and all that kind of stuff. And he's also just like cool, and just chill but intense. He's a hard worker, and he's always looking for the next thing. He's never like resting on, oh, this is cool, this is fine, I'm good. He's always like, what's next? What's around the corner? Yeah. And in terms of show running, I mean, yeah, it's just you're as an actor, you're hired kind of as a specialist in that character. So you see everything in the entire piece through the eyes of that one character. You got blinders on. You got a very myopic like point of view. And you let the director guide you in terms of like how to be useful to the piece. And as showrunner, you're constantly looking at the whole thing. But again, that led to even more joy when somebody would do something that was great for the piece. It was just like celebrating a touchdown or something. It was like,
Did you ever find that having to look at the whole piece all the time got in the way of you being able to be an expert on your character, or did you find that it helped?
I've never gotten reviews this good as an actor, so.
That's not true. I remember Rules of Attraction. You got some incredible.
Yeah,
reviews.
I did. I mean, I have gotten some, but these are like some unqualified, like really good acting reviews, and I didn't really. I think because there's something that happens when you write something that it just does a lot of the acting work for you. I feel like so it was not really the acting part. It was more like, okay, we're making this whole thing. I've told Viceland and everybody else that I can deliver this thing. So in order to do that, like I have to deliver this little part of the acting. And it just became like servicing the project. So I don't know, maybe that's the lesson is like, as an actor, don't think of it as I've got to do well. Think of it as I've got to serve in a weird way.
I think I have time for one more. Right there.
Hi. I was wondering, because you're showrunner and actor and writer in this, is there do you favor one over the other now? And do you have like favorite moments of being a showrunner versus an actor versus a writer?
I think I'm kind of a freak. I've been acting for so long. It's just kind of part of how I deal with life now. So I don't think I could ever not act. And not do that weird thing where you step into somebody else's body and just channel.
Have you ever gone an extended period of time since you've started acting without acting? And what did that feel like?
I just kind of start to get antsy a little bit. It's it's not fun. And I'll say to my wife, I need a role. I need to go do something. I need just some kind of outlet for it. I think it's just kind of how I process things. It's like my therapy in a weird way. And I'm sorry, and your other question about the...
Favorite part of show running and writing and directing, was that it? Yeah, writing.
The favorite part, realizing that, again, allow me to wax poetic about show running, having done it once. I feel like the discovery that it was like 60% work and dialing in and setting the tone and getting people excited and getting everybody on the same page, and then like 40% just being on the lookout for a better idea. Like realizing that it's not that I'm coming up with all these great ideas and I'm writing every line. It's more important to recognize the better ideas when they come and figure out how to put them in context so that it makes the show better. That was my favorite part, getting a great idea and plugging it in and watching it work. Yeah.
And when you get those great ideas, really beating them as much as possible into the story. Like that's...
Yeah, or hearing a crazy idea that somebody thinks isn't going to work, where they're like, I don't know, this is stupid, but, and you're like, yes, it's stupid, and that's why it's going to work right here. And yeah, because it's something that you never would have thought of. You get to like expand your brain capacity by having other brains there, working on it.
Well, James, it's a fantastic show. Congratulations
on
your first show running job and acting and a great performance. When can people check it out on Viceland?
They can check it out Thursdays at 10 p.m. on Viceland. If you get A&E, you get Viceland. You can go to Viceland.com, go to Channel Finder, and it'll tell you, you put in your cable information, it'll tell you what channel it's on. If you don't have cable, steal your parents' password for their cable or ask them for it. If they won't give it to you because you owe them money or because you can't steal it, then you can also watch it later on Sling. You sign up for that, or Apple TV.
James Vanderbeek, everybody. Thanks so much.
All right,
James.
thank you, guys.